Lionel Messi is the GOAT. Argentina win by 3-0 against Algeria in their opening game, and it was all about the magic man. We're going to talk England, who take on Croatia tonight in their first game. Who should start for Thomas Tuchel's side in this opener? We're going to discuss France's victory over Senegal, and we're going to talk Norway, who beat Iraq quite comfortably in the end. But look, there's only one place to start, and that is with the GOAT himself. I'm sorry if you still think that Cristiano Ronaldo is as good as Lionel Messi. I'm sorry, but you're mistaken. You're really, really wrong on this one. Normally, I'm quite open-minded about people having different opinions, but when something's this obvious, so obvious that it slaps you in the face each and every time you watch Lionel Messi play at this level, despite the fact he's been in America for quite some time, despite the fact that it feels like he's winding down his club career, he is still technically superb. He's still technically brilliant, and he's gone out on the World Cup stage and he's leveled the all-time World Cup goal scoring record. And I'm pretty confident in saying that over the course of this tournament, he is going to beat that. There's a bit of personal motivation for Lionel Messi there. But the amazing thing about him is it's not just about him in the way that sometimes it feels like it is when it comes to Cristiano. Look, I don't want to spend time talking about Cristiano Ronaldo or downplaying his achievements or greatness, because in any other era, he's the best. It's just that he had Lionel Messi to compete with, and Lionel Messi's still doing it at this level and on this incredible stage. The first goal, I think the goalkeeper should save it, but it's Lionel Messi's confidence that allows him to take the strike on from distance. Is a good enough strike to cause the goalkeeper problems clearly, and the ball ends up in the back of the net. The second goal that Lionel Messi scores, like in theory, it's a tap-in from close range. McAllister has a shot, the goalkeeper spills it, and in theory, it's just a tap-in. And you go, oh, what are people sort of raving about on that one? But it's the composure that he shows to approach that ball with his weaker right foot, and where a lot of other players would put their laces through it and try and hit the roof of the net, try and lift it over the goalkeeper, really hit it hard and make sure that they get the job done in terms of finishing the opportunity. Lionel Messi just shows incredible composure, opens up his right foot, completely wrong foots the goalkeeper by just slotting it into that corner. That finish in a lot of ways, and I know he scored much better and much more stunning goals than that, but that embodies what Lionel Messi is. This guy who's just got this incredible ability to almost make time stand still while he makes the right decision and while he decides what the best way to finish it is, and then having that quality to execute it in the way that he did. Just truly brilliant from Lionel Messi. And the third goal, well, that's vintage Messi. Edge of the box, creates half a yard for himself and just whips it into the bottom corner, the goalkeeper getting nowhere near it. He was outstanding. Argentina, I would argue, they were good, but they weren't like amazing. But when you got a player like that in your ranks, and the difference between sort of Lionel Messi and a lot of other players that get to this kind of, if you like, twilight stage of their career, although maybe it's disrespectful to say that when he's still doing what he's doing and producing what he's producing. But the difference is that a lot of other teams and a lot of other players would be seen or would be looking at a player like that and thinking it's a bit of a hindrance. He doesn't really have that capacity to cover ground anymore. We've got to do his running for him. But there's this willingness, and you saw it at the last World Cup, and you're seeing it again 4 years on. There's this willingness among his teammates to do the work for him, to do everything necessary to platform this guy's incredible talents. And that's exactly what they did. And they reaped the rewards for that, Argentina, because he scores a hat trick in their opening game and puts them in a really, really good position as far as that group is concerned. I could sit here and talk about Lionel Messi all day. I could sit here and tell you why he is better than Cristiano Ronaldo, while there's no comparison between the two. But I don't think we need to have that conversation anymore. I think it's obvious. It's so obvious that it's slapping you in the face. Let's talk Norway, who beat Iraq in the end by 4-1. Look, I expected Norway to win this game, as did a lot of people. Norway with a much more talented squad than Iraq, with all due respect. Erling Haaland opening the scoring just shy of the half an hour mark. But on 39 minutes, Ayman Hussein powered home a header to draw Iraq level, scoring, I think, their first goal, I'm right in saying, at a World Cup. Brilliant scenes. We got that moment again, but we also got the result that we expected. A mistake at the back allowed Haaland in for the second Norway goal to make it 2-1. Ostergaard's header on 76 made it 3. And then there was an Ayman Hussein own goal on 96 minutes. My takeaways from this game, from an Arsenal perspective, I was obviously looking that little bit harder at Martin Odegaard's performance, although I'll be honest, I did fall asleep a couple of times during this game because I had the Argentina game in mind. That was the one that I really kind of earmarked and staying up till about 4 a.m. when that finished. It's not easy when you got kids that are going to get you up at 6 regardless, but I got through it. That meant that this game kind of went by the wayside a little bit for me. But from what I did see, Haaland scoring a brace at the World Cup, introducing himself to that level. Everybody knows who he is. But obviously with the Norwegians being at the World Cup, an opportunity for him to really kind of showcase that on the world stage. And I think he did that. He took those opportunities well. He's going to be a threat throughout this tournament. There's no doubt about that. Was I massively impressed with Norway's performance overall based on what I saw? Not really, but they're feeling their way into the competition. They're feeling their way into the tournament. And what I think is happening at this World Cup, and a lot of people are guilty of, is they're looking at games ahead of time and they're saying, well, that is going to be easy for said team because this team are not very good. You saw it going into the Germany-Curacao game. And maybe that's not the greatest example because Germany win it by 7-1. But Curacao caused them some problems. Curacao scored a goal. It was 1-1 at some point. So what you're seeing is very, very competitive matches, regardless of the rankings of some of these sides, regardless of where one team ranks versus another. And I think you saw that again here. It's a very talented Norwegian side on paper. Iraq is a side that's, less fancied. I'll be honest, the only player that I knew in the Iraq team was Ali Al-Hamadi because of, his career here in England. But outside of that, I didn't know these players, yet they were competitive for large periods in the game. And they did a pretty good job of making life difficult at times for Norway, even if the scoreline went the way it did sort of late on. Because if you think about it, it was 2-1 up until, 14 minutes from time. And then Norway get a couple of goals. They capitalize on the fact that Iraq have put a lot into it, are tired, etc., etc. Haaland will be a threat. Not convinced by Norway as a team, though, at this stage. But again, it's early days in the tournament. All the games have been competitive. The vast majority of them, with the exception of 1 or 2, have been competitive, regardless of the rankings of the teams. And so I think we got to stop expecting teams to go out and win like 5, 6, 7-0. And we've got to just accept and acknowledge that for a lot of these lesser fancied sides, this is the occasion of a lifetime. They're going to absolutely want to make the most of it. They're going to lap it up. They're going to take it all in and they're going to give it their absolute best. And so games are going to be tough. And I think we've got to change that mindset because we've seen enough examples of lesser fancy teams being competitive at this World Cup already to start to change that mindset. France beat Senegal by 3-1. First half of this game wasn't particularly good. I didn't think France were particularly good. I thought Nicholas Jackson was a real threat for Senegal. I remember sort of sitting there with my mates watching it and at halftime having a bit of a discussion around Nicholas Jackson. We were sort of saying that this is a player who, doesn't always produce the end product. And that's why he's not regarded as kind of elite level. But can he run you ragged? Absolutely he can. Can he take you down the channels? Absolutely he can. Can he get in behind? Yeah. Can he create goal-scoring opportunities for himself? Yes, he can. But he's just lacking that final bit of quality. Second half starts. France thought they had a penalty. Sadio Mane brought down Kylian Mbappe. But the Iranian referee was not having it. He was not having it at all. He waved the protest away initially, much to the bemusement of those watching on, myself included, because at first glance, it looked like a Stonewall penalty. You then see some replays and you can see that Mane doesn't get the ball. And then it's about whether or not Mane's impeded Mbappe with the kind of his thigh, like as Mbappe's trying to jump over him, does he get in the way and stop him progressing? And I think on the balance of things, you probably have to say yes. But what I quite liked about this, even though sort of deep down, I think it was the wrong decision. What I quite liked about this from Ali Reza Fagani, the referee, was that he had his opinion. He, did what he thought was right at that time, which was wave play on. VAR steps in and says, Alireza, I think you need to go and have a look at this. He goes and has a look at it. He stands there. He watches it for a couple of minutes. And what I quite liked was that he had the balls to go, sorry, guys, I still don't see a penalty here. Now, whether you agree with that or not, okay, is kind of neither here nor there. The point I'm trying to make is that what you see from FIFA officials that you never see from Premier League officials, or very rarely see from Premier League officials, is this confidence and belief in their own decision-making process. And the fact that he's gone over, he's looked at it and still stuck to his guns, even though I don't agree with the decision, I kind of admire it. Like, he's not going to be told by the VAR how to referee. You know, he probably appreciates that you've sent him over and you've asked him to have a look, but he's not going to have his opinion completely swayed and changed based on the fact that he's been sent to conduct the check. In the Premier League, 9 times out of 10, in fact, 9.9 times out of 10, the referee changes his decision because he's been sent over to the monitor. And so he goes there with the mindset of, I must have got something wrong. Ali Reza Fagani, I think you were wrong, but I admire the fact that you stuck to your guns, you stuck to your principles. And if you genuinely didn't believe that was a penalty, fair enough. You had the opportunity to change it. You didn't. That would have pissed off a fair few France fans. But it wasn't long before they did break the deadlock through Kylian Mbappe. The pass from Michael Elise to set him up here, world class. A lot of people tell me that Michael Elise is world class. And obviously, since going to Bayern, he's been incredible. He's done it in the Champions League. He's now doing it at a World Cup. It's getting to the point where the whole Michael Elise is world class debate is becoming a non-debate, actually. It's irrefutable that Michael Elise is playing at that level right now. And that pass for me was just stupendous, unbelievable pass. And then Bradley Barcola, who comes off the bench, scores a second for France. Again, they create the space. They get him in behind. What an accomplished finisher Bradley Barcola looks to be, at least based on that evidence. And it's interesting because whenever I've talked about Bradley Barcola in the context of a transfer potentially to my beloved Arsenal, a lot of people have pushed back and said, yeah, but he's very erratic in front of goal. And my pushback and Adam Keys' pushback, who's on my podcast regularly, was, yeah, but he gets a lot more chances because of his movement. He plays in a league where he gets more chances, and therefore his hit rate's going to be probably a little bit lower than it should be. It's something that he can improve on, no doubt about it. But if you were an alien who'd come down from space and somebody said to you, watch Bradley Barcola for the first time, what do you think about his finishing ability? And you see that, you think accomplished, composed, well executed, and you just think brilliant. Really, really good goal from him. And Mbappe pulled one back to make it 2-1 on the 95th minute. And then Kylian Mbappe scores a worldie from distance to make it 3-1 to France and put the game to bed. Now, Kylian Mbappe, okay, he gets quite a bit of stick, I find, from people, largely because people perceive him to be a bit of a troublemaker, someone who at times can be viewed as being a little bit too big for his boots. But my God, does he back it up? You know, this is a guy that, yeah, is accused of arrogance at times, is accused of really believing in his own hype. But when he goes out and produces like that, what are you going to say? You know, he always does it at World Cups, Kylian Mbappe. And that was another example of a stunning, stunning goal to take any potential chance of revival away from Senegal. But he also scored the first goal, which was taken really, really well. Kylian Mbappe right now for me is the world's best player. Not everybody agrees with that. Not everybody likes him enough to allow themselves to kind of admit that. But when it push comes to shove, Kylian Mbappe delivers. He is brilliant. He really, really is. And a good win for France in what was a potentially difficult opening game against a good Senegal side. So, yeah, really, really good result for them. Right, let's wrap up by talking England, shall we? England kick off their World Cup campaign tonight. They take on Croatia. And there's quite a bit of debate around the team that should start the game. I think there's 3 positions where there's probably a conversation to be had. As an Arsenal man, I'm always going to be worried about the fitness of our players, and I'm always going to want to wrap them up in cotton wool. But if I take my Arsenal hat off for a minute and we look at this purely from an England perspective, this is the team that I have decided we should go with. So I'll share this with you now. There it is. So my England team to face Croatia is this: Pickford in goal. James at right back. And this is obviously subject to all of these guys being fit enough, right? But I'm going James at right back. I'm going Stones and Gay at centre back. I'd do it the other way around, though. I'd have Gay on the left. The graphic has done me dirty there, but I'd go with Gay on the left, Stones at the heart of the defense alongside him. But on the right side, I'm going O'Reilly at left back because I think he's just been outstanding all season. I do look at that back line and I think that it's really, really good for the most part. But with James and O'Reilly, who both want to get forward, both quite like to drift into central areas, is there the potential of leaving Stones and Gay a little bit exposed? Maybe, but I'd argue that Rice and Anderson then have a job to do in terms of dropping off and tucking in when necessary to protect against that. It's quite a tough balance, I think, for England to find tonight because Croatia will be good in midfield. They might not be as physical as England, but they will get on the ball a lot. They will try and dictate the tempo of the game when they have it, and they've got players capable of doing that. So you could argue that you're going to need those bodies in the midfield all the time, and maybe them dropping off into different areas is not ideal for a fixture like this. I think you've got to look at James and O'Reilly, and then maybe just kind of slightly alter and tweak their roles and give them slightly different instructions to maybe what they receive at club level in order to protect against the risk of having to vacate your midfield and giving Croatia essentially exactly what they want. Rice and Anderson will be my midfield pair with Bellingham in front of them. I've gone Bellingham over Rodgers because I just think Bellingham's got that big game thing about him. You know, I think Rodgers deserves to play. I think Rodgers deserves opportunities, and he will get them during this World Cup. But I just think Jude Bellingham is someone that has shown, even at the international level, that he can produce clutch moments. And I think England are going to need those. I think everybody needs those to potentially win a World Cup. So Bellingham playing in the 10 for me. On the left, I'm going Rashford. I prefer Rashford to Gordon. Not everybody does, but I think Rashford's pace and superior end product, I think, could be key in this game. I think Harry Kane has a good relationship with Marcus Rashford. I think they could play off each other quite well. And on the right-hand side, I'm going with Noni Madueke. Bukayo Saka needs to be protected. He's a great player. I understand the temptation to start him. I understand why he will want to play and push through the pain barrier, but we know he's been nursing an Achilles problem. Achilles problems are very, very difficult to shake. And so I don't want to see Bukayo start this game. There'll be plenty of time for him to feature in this World Cup. Give him the time he needs to get back up to speed, to nurse that injury just that little bit better and that little bit more. I'm going Madueke on the right. I think Madueke is decent for England. Lacks the end product at times, yes, but he'll run. He'll run Croatia back towards their own goal over and over and over again. And I think England have to be forceful. I don't think they can allow it to become this kind of, possession-based game where they end up becoming a little bit passive. I think what they need to do is make it rock and roll football. They need to be relentless in everything they do, and they need to play on the fact throughout the tournament, by the way, that England are superior to a lot of other teams physically, and they really do need to, I think, play on that strength. That's how they stand the best chance of winning this World Cup. And up front, Harry Kane, for me, one of the best players in the world at the moment. I can say that now. He no longer plays for that lot down the road. But I think, he's essential to bring in the best out of Bellingham, Madueke, and Rashford, who I've picked to play around him. So for those of you listening on audio, I'll just repeat my team. Pickford in goal, James, Gay, Stones, and O'Reilly across the back. Rice and Anderson in the middle. Rashford, Bellingham, and Madueke as the three behind Harry Kane, who leads the line. Don't forget to subscribe, like, all the rest of it. Thank you so, so much for being with me. We'll be back with a World Cup episode tomorrow to review England's game against Croatia and discuss any other big stories that crop up from the World Cup. I'll catch you all soon. Until the next one, take care of yourselves and goodbye.